Okay, so one of the most important parts of my day is following up on student discipline. So on a daily basis, I have my secretary prepare a folder for me, and inside I've got various disciplinary issues I need to address. So in this case, I've got a couple students who were found with no polo today, and their IDs were confiscated. What I then need to do is determine where they are in the discipline process and then go visit with them. So I noticed this person, it's their second dress code offense of the year. So I make a note for myself that they're going to be receiving an after-school detention. I write down that it's for no polo. I look up what class they're going to be in. And I set that aside and move on to the next one. So another no polo. It's this one's third dress code of the year. And again, where are they? So the discipline is a very important aspect of maintaining a high school, making sure that everything goes along well. Really, the students of this school are incredibly well behaved. So most of the discipline that I do is for very small stuff. Now the philosophy is that we focus on the small stuff because if the students are following things like the dress code and getting to their classes on time, then they're probably not going to be having knife fights in the cafeteria. So the more we emphasize people following procedures, following rules on a regular basis, the better we're doing. We do deal with all kinds of issues over the years. I have had students on I've had tobacco, I've had some cases of fighting, people saying nasty things about each other. But for the most part, almost all the discipline I deal with is pretty small stuff. I think, looking back, if I was asked what's my disciplinary investigation that I'm most proud of, I can tell you it happened 4 years ago. We had students who were stealing cell phones on campus. They were sneaking around, and one afternoon in late May, early June, I got a report that they hit the grade 8 locker room and swiped a bunch of phones from the 8th graders. I was able to do an investigation, identified the 2 students that did it. We ended up busting them with the phones in their possession and were able to get rid of them. And this ended up being a big deal because many of those students who got their phones back are currently DHS seniors. So their first experience with me was me able to return their stolen property, and I think that has helped build my relationship with the students for the whole time they've been here at the school. So here I've got the famous yellow clipboard. I think people see me walking around with this, and I think most of the students know exactly what it means if they see me carrying this. Certainly when I walk into a room, usually if they see the yellow clipboard, things get really quiet. So let's go off now and we'll do some discipline. The system of discipline that we use at DHS is called progressive discipline. Progressive means that the more times a student breaks the rule, the tougher the consequence becomes. So the idea behind this is that every student is willing to change their behavior. You just have to find out how much pressure the student needs to choose to make that choice. Now again, the students here at DHS are really good. So almost all of our students just obey the rules without any kind of warning or reminder needed. Sometimes a kid will break the dress code. I'll come in and give them a warning, and again, for 90% of them, that's sufficient. Hello, can I see Tarek, please? Hey, Tarek. You seem to be about as far from dress code as a kid can possibly get.
That's true.
Is your ID back? Why are you on dress code today?
It's lazy day, you know, it's comfortable.
Lazy day?
I feel comfortable in this. I was helping out people for a prom, that's why.
Okay. Now, do we come to school to feel comfortable? Okay, so why do we come to school?
To learn.
So what do you think your dress has to do with learning? What does your clothing have to do with how well you learn?
Because when you're like you know, formal clothing, you know what I mean, polo and all that, you're not like relaxed or chillaxing.
Very good. So I want to put it to you this way. You want to dress appropriately for the activity that you're in. So if you're out there playing sports, you should dress to play sports. But if you're coming in here to study and to learn, then your clothing should match. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So I checked, this is actually your second dress code. You had another one previously back on November 26th. So for that reason, your consequence day is going to be a detention. Okay? How would you feel about scheduling that for next Sunday?
I already have one on Sunday.
Okay,
Look, it's Tuesday, okay?
sure, we'll plan for Tuesday. I think she'll get to know you very well by then.
Oh wait, yeah, Tuesday.
Tuesday's good? Okay. I might suggest that since we're talking almost a week away, you might want to write this down in your planner so you don't forget. Okay? So make sure you're in the dome by 2:35 on Tuesday. Okay? If you have another dress code violation this year, you'd get another detention. Okay? Do you have any questions for me?
No.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
He's helped me as a teacher by supporting me to hold the line in terms of the school rules. So as a teacher, kids will always fight us, but then if they go to the next level and someone supports us, that really helps us in the classroom.
I think Mr. Butler was, obviously a brilliant teacher when he was a teacher. He was really well loved by the students. I think he's a good administrator, but sometimes when you're an administrator, you kind of lose your popularity with the students because you have to be harsh. But actually, he's one of the funniest people I know, really very smart.
So people sometimes wonder about the severity of our responses to disciplinary infractions. So for example, is an after-school detention an appropriate consequence for being out of dress code or for taking your cell phone out to check the time? So what people sometimes don't consider is that it's not just the actions that they take, it's the fact that they were willing to defy the stated rules. Now, I talked earlier about progressive discipline and that our first response to any rule violation is always a warning. The reason it's always a warning is because we want to give the student the benefit of the doubt. We want to show some respect and trust to the kid. Maybe the kid really didn't understand what the dress code required. They confused button-up shirts with polo shirts, for example. For the cell phone policy, they didn't think that taking their phone out to check the time would have violated that policy. So the first time is always a warning, so I can check in with the student, make sure they're aware of what the rules actually are, and then I contact the parents to ensure that the whole family is on the same page, know that we've talked about this, and also that there wasn't some kind of overreaction on our part. If a student, however, violates something 2 or more times, then they're no longer ignorant of what the rules are. In fact, they're now actively defying what the school has told them they need to do. So at this point, detentions take the form of pressure on students to start changing their behavior. So if a student comes to school out of dress code for the second time, primary in our minds are the idea that the students need to be dressed smartly and professionally for the learning that's to take place that day. Secondly, there's the issue of security, that we want our students to have a certain uniformity about them. This allows us to distinguish DHS students from other kids on campus or other strangers that might have come on. So for those reasons, dress code is important. But the reason why there must be a consequence for a second offense is that despite being warned, the student is actively choosing not to follow the rules. And if we start letting it slide on small things like phones or clothing, then it won't take long before students are starting to disobey the rules on some of the larger things, and the situation will get out of control. What we want, if you read in the student handbook, what we say we want is to have a safe, orderly, and productive campus where teachers can teach and students can learn. If everybody's obeying the rules, if everybody is being cooperative and helpful, students can still have a very positive daily experience, and the school will continue to function in a very high-end, productive way. In that sense, the assistant principals of the school are kind of the gatekeepers. By enforcing the rules, we ensure that everything runs smoothly for everybody else.